Hello, everybody. Welcome. Good to see you, everybody. Thanks for coming and being with us for this artist talk. We are the two curators, Ólöf, Kristín, Sigurðardóttir, Markús, Andrésson, in conversation with our artist, Karin Sander. As I say, thanks for being with us. We're going to be here for maybe 45 minutes to dive into the secrets of this artist and getting to know her work better. We encourage you to think about things, and if you observe something on the screen, we're going to have some images of previous works flickering. If any questions come up, any comments, save them until later so we can bring them out to the open. But in any case, we are super happy opening the fantastic exhibition of Karin here in Reykjavík Art Museum. It's called 1957 to 2057, and I'm sure you've seen some of it, but take a closer look because there is work on the inside and on the outside of the building, and a lot to see. So, Ólöf.
Yes, it's good to be with you here today and to finally have realized this exhibition we've been working on for a long time. For those of you, many of you already know Karin Sander quite well, but we wanted to introduce her as her career in a shortly. Karin Sander is born in 1957, as Markús mentioned. She studied art in Stuttgart and in New York. And she held a professorship at, now my German is revealed, at the Kunsthochschule Berlin Wissenschaft. Do I get applause? and she was also a professor at the ETH in Zurich. Karin represented Switzerland in the Venice Biennial for Architecture in 2023. She has had exhibition in numerous exhibitions in numerous museums and respected exhibition spaces all around the world, and has been recognized for her work. Her art also includes public art, and she's a creator of notable public artworks, particularly in Germany and Switzerland. And in 2018, she won a competition for a public artwork here in Reykjavík, in Reykjavík. That work has not yet been realized, but it's good to mention. And we will have images showing parts of her work behind us, and I encourage you, if something raises questions, we will have a time in the end to ask questions and discuss what is there. But my first question to you, Karin, is what brought you to Iceland?
Yeah, we were recently recalling that first moment, which was in 1993, and Ragnar, who's here also, Ragnar Robertsdottir, she told me that she saw some work in Cologne, and I was at the time living in Mönchengladbach, preparing an exhibition at Abteiberg, Mönchengladbach, and I opened a newspaper and I saw a beautiful landscape of Iceland, and I thought that would be a place to go. And 2 weeks later, the invitation came, and I came here, and Ingolfur Arnarsson and Peter Arason took me around in the landscape, and we developed an exhibition. And since we are friends and coming back, and yeah.
And then you made the work One Day Drive, which is a group of images of the country. And since then you've used Iceland as a source in many works. Not only where Iceland is not only the subject, but it's also, you just use it as a source. It's not really about us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. It was this one-day drive, which we will do tomorrow. We did with Peter Arason. He said we wanted to go to the highlands, and so We started and the weather changed really dramatically. So on maybe after 20 minutes, he said, oh, we should go back. So we drove back 2 minutes, but then the sun came out. Oh, we still can go. So went back and forth, and the weather was dramatic. And this is the one-day drive. And it was an experience of, as people say here in Iceland, if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes.
But this brings us maybe to something that I think is at the core of what you do in your art. It's you're always bringing attention to elements that are unstable, that are not fixed, that are not settled. You bring out the change that's happening around us all the time. So you think about how place changes, depending on if you're in it or if you're outside it, and if you're remembering it or if you're recreating it. You think about time, how that shifts, and your attitude as you get older as a person, and also just how time changes things around you, architecture, nature. There's these fundamental elements that you're always highlighting, or at least that's how I see. You're always pointing, look, there's nothing stable, everything changes. Is that a big issue for you?
Yeah, it is. I work always with the content of where something is shown. So where you show something has a lot to do what you show. And this is the starting point to develop a work. Yeah.
And this idea of the artwork being unstable and maybe leaving up to chance, that there is something that can happen to it that you don't necessarily do yourself in your practice or studio, you just let it go. That's also a fascinating element for an artist to just let things happen.
Yeah, it's, I mean, these patina paintings, for example, they have everything that you would like to keep away of the real paintings. So this is something I did the first time I was in Stuttgart preparing an exhibition for the Staatsgalerie Stuttgart, and there was a huge Barnett Newman, and this Barnett Newman was supposed to be rented to or lent to the Philadelphia Art Museum. And the curator was running through the museum and was totally unhappy. This is our most important work that goes away. Our museum is nothing without this painting. So I said, okay, I'll copy it. So you have it during the course of my exhibition. So there was a copied Barnett Newman, but my Barnett Newman was a little bit more bright. So I asked the restoration people, could you make this little dust on mine also to assemble? And he said, no, I can't, because this is the same reason why when I start to take the dust away of the real Barnett Newman, this will get cloudy, and the same will happen if I put cloudy, something dusty on yours. So this became a new thinking of, because if a painting is given to another institution, it is a real immense effort. This Barnett Newman went, all the Barnett Newmans in whole Europe were collected on crates, and all the museums accompanied this. So my Barnett Newman was then hanging during the time in the museum, and it was a replacement for the time being.
This maybe brings the attention to the works you've made that are interventions into the museum space and into the institution. We have two of those here in the exhibition. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I know the audience have been looking at images from a very strong intervention into the museum structure.
Talk about here. I mixed up a few also of the exhibition together with earlier works, so you can see a little bit of a range. And your question was, sorry.
Well, talk about the works where you make this small intervention into the building, into the gallery space that brings the audience to think about the structure, to think about the institution, to think about where they are and why they're there and what this institution means for them.
Yeah, it is interesting that all visitors come always with a kind of expectation, and so they are confronted with their own expectations in these kind of works. For example, all of a sudden they become part of the exhibition, hanging their clothes in vitrines, getting scanned. So it's all about their identity that gets on display throughout this exhibition here. At the same time, the identity of the country, of the landscape. And so these little interventions, they show you some small part of history, of the idea of an institution, of the idea of an exhibition. And so this might be the bow that goes for, or the red line.
This exhibition here is maybe not typical for what you do when you exhibit. Usually you have one strong statement that you're working through, but here we have like a mini retrospective. Am I right that this is maybe also a bit new for you to compose your previous works together with new works?
Yes, this was a big challenge for me now, here on 2 floors, to get a relationship again to the early works. And I have never done this kind of exhibition, juxtaposing so many works with each other and thinking how they would relate to each other in each space. And so this is for me a total new kind of exhibition type. And it is on the one hand a retrospective, on the other hand a prospective, because everything will go on in our imagination, but also physically in the patina paintings. They never stop.
And the patina paintings were quite a big part of our project. We started by planting white canvases all around the country, and you choose interesting places that you thought would be significant for the exhibition. And also you placed canvases in the urban landscape, in the underpass in Miklubraut. When, if some of you have seen the exhibition upstairs, we have these quite strong works that are truly a collaboration with street artists in Reykjavík. Can you talk a little bit about how you chose these places and what they meant for you?
Yeah, it is a very urban place, and if everybody is here who painted them, thank you. It's well done, and it is representing the different kind of spaces throughout wherever they are. Even if they stay wide, they have seen the space and have absorbed the space. And so we add always to artwork. Art is created in our heads, and so this space comes up. And
it was quite unpredictable. We have retrieved canvases that were totally white. We are dealing with Icelandic nature, where things go on the canvas, but then there comes rain and there comes snow and it disappears again. And we even have canvases that are still up in the mountains under snow, and we do not know precisely where they are. We have to get them later.
And they didn't arrive back yet.
But this is also interesting how you then display them here, because you could take them and individual paintings and say, oh, this is so beautiful. Let's leave it alone on the wall there, and it will be just marvelous. You know, it will be like sublime. But you don't allow us to have that experience, because you just put them next to each other. They're competing with each other, and then you sort of get it. Okay, it's not about how each and every one succeeded or didn't succeed. It's about showing them as, like you call them sometimes, usables, gebrauchsbilder. It's something that's something else than an individual painting. It's a process. It's something that's ongoing, and we're not allowed to take one out and enjoy it as such. I thought that was an interesting way when we were just hanging them and you were thinking about them and talking about them.
Yeah, first they were so many, so we have to place them and to have them next to each other. They make a kind of history. They make reference to art history. They make references to something we like or we don't like, dirt. By the way, dirt is UV resistance, so it has something that you want to have paintings to be. So they stay and get more, and so it has all these references with paintings, and and you can look at them individually, but you can also look at them as a line, as as a timeline, as a visual line.
And so you give you like Markús was saying, you can take the control is not totally in your hands. You give nature and the viewer quite a lot of control, but that brings out the question of authorship. And there are so many works here that you give the authorship, where you give the authorship to the visitor in the museum, which is quite a nice experience for people, and then also for us to keep on working with the exhibition and see it develop and develop through the months it's going to be here. Can you talk a little bit about the identities, the work identities on display that's quite visible in the entrance of the museum?
Yeah, it is. Everybody brings their belongings, and you are not allowed to take them up in the museum. You don't want to carry them either. So they look in these vitrines. It reminds us of ethnological museums where we see feathers or Indian clothing and so on. And today, there's nothing to collect anymore, it seems, because we are wearing maybe comme des garçons, we are wearing Japanese, Chinese, New York designers, and they are all spread all over the world, and so you cannot even see their profession anymore. So, but it might be they might be collectibles in another way, and what we can read in the vitrines. And I'm really very impressed how orderly and beautifully everybody uses them. You can really see what the weather is like. If it's raining, if it's cold, if it's warm, what bag the person is bringing, and so on. And this gives another kind of display which might be the one in the future. Which we might collect in 2057.
This is also a great entry to the piece that's a fundamental element on the first floor, which is the scanning process. Museum visitors 1 to 7. This is something that you've been doing for years and years in different methods and techniques. What's new in it for you here? How do you see this work progressing for you now in this new iteration?
Yeah. One thing is I'm totally impressed that the technique developed so far that I'm really there where the colors are connected with the data. And this I have been working at ETH. There was the first 3D color scanner produced for, and now we do black and white, which has a kind of photography kind of image. It is as if it's a 3D photography, and some shadows and wrinkles and so on. And this was my wish to reach, and this is now here completed. These technical things have also such a beautiful aesthetic. By the way, it is. People are invited to stand in, and I consider them as self-portraits because people decide how they would like to be represented and how they would like to be seen later as a sculpture on the table.
And as a part of a group.
And as a part of the group.
It was a little bit challenging for us to take on this project with you. Yes. But we didn't make fear rule, so we went on and trusted you completely. And what we have now was we experienced that we were in kind of a laboratory, making an experience that I don't believe many have been scanned in such a scan as this one, especially not in museum and art environment. So it was interesting, and it's only starting. It's going to be interesting to see how it evolves. Do you think that you talk about the museum as a laboratory? And in the same time, you both use high-tech equipments, and then also quite like primitive ways of making art, like the patina paintings that are just, you make nature help you. You make us put works out in the highlands. I'm just wondering about this difference of interest, how far you can go in both directions.
Yeah, each work needs a certain kind of outcome, and you have an idea, and the idea, at the beginning I had the idea I would like to do a 3D scan of someone, but I had no idea what technique is behind. It was in 1987, and the scanner was as big as this room. Mm-hmm. And it took 25 seconds to get scanned, and then you start shaking, and also holes were in between, and so we had to write a program for it, and it was a much more bigger effort. And that is always the case. It looks very simple at the beginning, how it looks. It has such a kind of self-understanding, but there's always a development behind. Mm-hmm. And from 1997 to today is just a development further, and I set a kind of rules or a play role. There's a kernel you can send in, and that's all. Then the visitor completes the work. Mm-hmm. And making it possible. And with the kitchen pieces, for example, these are just fresh fruits. You go in the supermarket, it's not so expensive material, and it's so beautiful how you can select apples, pears, potatoes, and each has its perfect image in the head. When I see people select potatoes, I don't know why they take these. I would take others. So it is an individual decision how to use, how to find your perfect potato, and then they are nailed to the wall. That was the first idea, but we developed a special nail for it because it has to sit so straight. So, for example, the television team came and said, "This is well done by hand, very nicely crafted what's hanging on the wall." And one person even yesterday ate a leaf to see if it's real. So, because it is so perfectly installed, it doesn't turn. It has to have, there is always a long process until it looks as it should look. And also the placement is important. You place it in an exhibition environment where lots of people expect to see something made by hand. And you challenge that. Yeah. But maybe one aspect to it is, it has a lot to do with painting, but I don't paint the apple. The apple represents itself. And so this is, goes just, it's a quote for, But you also talk, there are many works going through the exhibition, and through your career you've thought a lot about place and placement. And we have digital information, we have coordinates. Can you talk a little bit about that, and the icon for maps, how you think about those works and the viewer? Yes, the coordinates are just numbers, and every place is defined through such numbers. There's one point from where you calculate that place. And to read these numbers opens up a sculptural imagination that this place here has a lot to do with the whole world. It is defined through these coordinates. And this is, I'm interested, that always your thoughts go beyond what you can read. And the Google sign just sits there where you come to Reykjavík and you look for the Reykjavík Art Museum, it's there. So in that space there. And of course, it has always a different measure. In your mobile phone, it's very small. Here it is maybe the size. And you will see in the slides one which is 8 meters high on a tower. And this is also in relation of your city map of your mobile phone.
And this relationship, just to take it further, this relationship to place and placement is both very, let's just, for a lack of a better word, just dry. It's, digital information, coordinates, it's like super unsentimental. And then there is the element of you 3D printing mountains, and then it gets closer to something that you may love or admire and enjoy as landscape, but it's also very technical information that you're basing everything on. And then we go to one of your latest works, which is maybe a surprise to many of us here who know your work, and there is a 3D print of a painting of a mountain, which is, it goes even further into the realm of, not to say sentimental, but to it's something that's very much related to how one individual relates to one particular place, the place of where they grew up. So there is this painter in Iceland, Storval, who always painted the mountain that he saw outside his home, and he kept painting it over and over again over his life, and you choose this particular artist and this particular mountain. So I think that opens up a whole new dimension to your thoughts about our relationship to place. What's happening here?
Yes. It is such an interesting mountain that he painted over his whole life. Always only this mountain, or mostly, and hundreds of them. And to take this in and calculate it into 3D and have it just printed in a smaller format. This is the format that the printer can do. And have it as a 3D image, making somehow the relation to all the other works of the 3D sculptures and also to painting in large. And so I was interested in this, and it is totally alone on its wall, and it seems in its appearance much bigger than you see it.
And then you see it also, just for curiosity, you could see it in the next gallery as a 3D print, the same mountain, so there's a connection there.
Yeah, and the 3D Google data that you take, these are thousands of images, and we wrote a program for it, that they come all to a 3D data that you can print. And you see that there are artifacts in these mountains. There's half of the mountain is darker than the other one. And it is because Google, maybe the sun stopped or something happened. So you see these technical imperfections of these data. And I think this is very interesting. And when I did this, the first time it was shown at I8 Gallery first, and it was, Google does that all over the world, but Iceland was not included for a long time. And so when Iceland was included and had the 3D, I made this work.
These are wonderful sculptures, and you see them in the space as sculptures, but I think that many Icelanders that look at these particular places have a different relationship, that they think more about where is it, I was there, my ancestors were there, it's something to, it's very emotional when we look at landscape. And maybe when we look at Herðubreið, it's also quite emotional. We think about Stórval, I mean, who was a very special person here in the art community. So for us, these works have maybe a different width than for many other people, where it's looked at as a laboratory of data, something you base on data, because it's 100% based on data.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I very much like, take out any interpretation that would come from my side. I really like this kind of technical translation into something else, and this is also when we polish the wall. I mean, Stefan did it this time. To polish it and the space gets reflected. It's not an image that I create. The image is created by the visitors to go around and reflects also in a broader way the space and the person and whatever happens in front of it.
Exactly. I was because we were talking about these digital imperfections of the Google Maps. It brings me to the video which is in the corner, the Sigrid, which is also maybe what attracted to this old Pathé film. It had all these imperfections, and it's almost ruined. But then there's something that you catch on, and you take it further. It's a surprising work in the exhibition, I think. At least people have come to me and said this is sort of stands out, and the picture of yourself as a child. That there is this reference to life and birth and death, and it's another dimension in these two works. Maybe you can talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, the Secret is a Pathé film from 1930, and the person was 5 years old, taking a ball, throwing it, and the rusty parts of the film, because the film material is so old, they jump around like a little ball as well. And on the right side, and it is also something to do with the patina in the time, with how this material changes. And on the right side is the same person just a few months before she died, sitting in a wheelchair and just having this kind of medical gymnastic ball, moving it from one hand to another. It spans kind of a whole world, or of a whole life. And across this is, and of course I have not taken this film, 1930. I take this kind of footage and look for the person when she was so old to juxtapose this to the other one. And across is I call it my very first work, counting water. Every child does it. My mother took it, but it has something to do with other works where calculation and counting is very important. So I was invited, and this is always the starting point for many works. I get invited to a certain theme, to a certain exhibition with a certain theme, and it was called My Very First. So I picked this photograph that my mother took of me and considered it as my very first. And in this exhibition, it somehow places this or refers to the title From To.
Mm-hmm. And then we have you printed out in the A gallery. We would like to give some time for the audience to ask questions, but before we go there, it would be good to hear your thoughts about public art and art in public spaces. You've done quite a lot of them, and I do believe that they're up there at this moment.
Yes, this is also to start with something where a work will be, it will be the way it would developed for, and each work is specifically done for each space in public space. And for Reykjavík, I proposed a palm tree. It's for a square, and people in windows normally have little, for example, a cactus from California, or so they have kind of plants that give their vision to spaces where they would like to go for holidays. And here, Iceland has so much energy, so we could place a palm tree in the middle of the space for the people to look at, and it would be possible to keep, and it would grow and feel comfortable. And with global warming, maybe in 2057, it doesn't need the glass around anymore.
So public artwork, for you, is it something that you create more as a reaction to a situation, or are you proactive in thinking about the public as a field where you can develop work?
Yeah, it's both ways, and I need always a kind of an Anlass, to start with something. So, and I'm very happy that there are a lot of such. So otherwise, I don't know what I would do. And it is interesting to study, to see. For example, at the moment, there will be a carpet made, 13 meter long and almost 3 meter high. It will be in Rostock, in a building of Sauerbruch in Hatten. And it is a custom space, a custom school, a custom university where people learn. And the carpet shows exactly what the carpet on the wall hides. Mm-hmm. So exactly this part will be made as a carpet. And so it always is a start for a new idea, for new work, and then it goes beyond. And then it could be also, for example, a raised floor in a gallery can be then also in another gallery. So it is a starting point that all the visitors are raised on a floor and nothing is on the wall. And again, the visitor is confronted with its own expectation and he stands on it.
We have behind us here now images from the Venice pavilions, from the Swiss pavilion. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this was a very nice project. It came to the end, my teaching position at ETH Zurich, and was sitting in a studio. Okay, one can do a book to end it with, and then there popped up an email for the architecture biennial. One can submit an idea, and I thought that would be a nice ending. So I went immediately to Venice and looked at this pavilion and discovered that the Venezuelan pavilion and the Swiss pavilion are so close to each other. They are thought as one because they have a common garden and so on. But in the course of time, a wall was built to disconnect, and also a fence from the other side. So each of the countries blocked. And so my idea is one actually has to take away these blocks. But then I decided differently. No, Switzerland has to open to the neighbor. So if we cut the wall there and left the wrong wall and the wrong gate, we left the wrong wall as a sculpture visible that this was wrong. And this opened up to understand this architectural situation. Mm-hmm. And it also opened up much more what the architects have thought when they made these two designs that merge into each other. And when I did this together with my colleague Philipp Ursprung, art and architecture historian, And when we submitted this, Switzerland said, no way, we are not collaborating with Venezuela. And Venezuela has been closed for more than 8 years because of the country situation, political situation. And we were just trying, we won the competition, but we said no collaboration. But we had asked already in Venezuela if we might take away the wall in between and so on. And they immediately, when we gave out this message, the press conference, Venezuela again took place in the biennial. So it had a big collaboration. But Switzerland said, but when there's the opening, you have to do a rope between the two. There should be no connection. And the president of Switzerland came and said, what is this rope? Take it away. And so they said, if the president of Switzerland goes over to the Venezuelan and shakes hand, this will be in the press everywhere. And exactly that's what he did. He went over at the first time, shaked hand to everybody, and it was no problem anymore. And since that, we are friends with many artists and architects from Venezuela, and of course we hope that the political situation will change.
This is a very beautiful story of how things can just happen because of an action that you decide, and then you don't know what will turn out.
Yeah. We named it Neighbors, and now when Trump took over, took the president of Venezuela, we wanted to write a letter that was not meant like this, our project.
But thank you anyway. So please, the audience, raise your hands if you have any questions or comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and I can repeat it maybe here just for the recording purpose. So if you have any questions about what we've been talking about, or what you've seen on the wall, or here in the exhibition, don't be shy. Yeah, please. A question about the title.
We don't know, but in any event, I hope some work will.
Other questions, please? A question about the adjectives in the Wikipedia section, in the entry.
Yeah, in German you say Eigenschaftswörter and adjectives, and Eigenschaften, how would you translate this? It means how someone is, and this is why the adjectives.
And you hang it on a wall, which usually is used in our building for the information section, where you get to know the exhibitions in the building. And there you see this text, which is words from your Wikipedia entries. And there wasn't an Icelandic Wikipedia entry on Karin Sander for some reason. So in the exhibition process, we did that. We put in a beautiful text that I wrote and you wrote.
Very informative.
Long, and we had hundreds of adjectives. And then some idiot online edited the text because it's an open source, and then it just became mini. And that's
there are some super users that can...
Exactly. Yeah. So it was cut down. That's why the Icelandic text is so much smaller.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing. But it's nice that you brought this work to the attention, because it's quite curious. Please, other questions or comments? A question about the Barnett Newman piece that you spoke about.
Very good question. What happened was that when the real Barnett Newman came back, the curator was called and said, so now we destroy the Karin Sander Barnett Newman because the other one is back. And then I said, no, my Barnett Newman is 10% smaller, and it is a kind of bow, and I had I asked the Barnett Newman Foundation if I can do it, and I want to have it back. So it was hanging in my room for a while, and people sometimes came for dinner and said, you don't have a Barnett Newman, do you? And now it is in the Helga de Alver collection in Badajoz.
Other questions?
Great question here about the work process, where the ideas come from, etc.
This is a very difficult one. I never know. And sometimes it takes long, and sometimes it comes like this, but one has a lot of ideas the day long. But you cannot use them. The one that's then is a kind of essence, and all of a sudden it comes to the right point. And it can be at a nice dinner like yesterday, or the day before, or in the future. You sit somewhere and you think somewhere, and then all of a sudden you have it. It is just, if Menesse, she describes it like this. She sits at her desk every morning at 9 o'clock, and you have to, if you have a green meadow, you have to, and waiting for the helicopter to land, you have to mow the grass every day, even if you don't know if the helicopter will land now. So I have this image in my head like this. I'm not sitting at 9 o'clock to think, but
just to be, you're always alert. You're ready when it hits you.
I'm not sure. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes the ideas are beyond, and I thought that is an idea, but it takes a while to think, and then you start to think, that's really there, that's it. So sometimes the idea is faster than I am. It is to do now, for example, an exhibition like this, you start from scratch. And the same way when I do something for a group exhibition, or when I do something for a museum or for a public space, it starts always from scratch. And sometimes I envy painters. They can just go in the studio and there's already a canvas waiting and they can start with something. And this I miss a little bit.
But you take in a lot of the existing space history and social importance of both the public space and also the space, the art space you're working in. So it's not totally white. It's referring to what is already there in many ways, right. Many works at least.
Yes. And this is always a challenge, to work with something that's there. And here I had this really wonderful experience to work with two wonderful curators, with two wonderful directors, and this is a real fortune. And then to come here and find the space totally empty, ready to start to work. This was so amazing to see nothing inside. You should open that sometimes.
Yeah, that was your empty canvas that you were mentioning, coming into the work in the morning, and here's your canvas, ready for you.
It brings me a little bit back to when I met you first, which was when the competition was for Reykjavík, and we went to look at Reykjavík, which was not just like a war zone. It was just ruins. Now it's a place where people live and have their apartments. But you somehow could imagine. Well, of course, we had drawings and plans for what was going to happen there. But it was so interesting to see how you planted something there that was totally unforeseeable, and has actually been quite a debate here. But if that work will ever be realized, we hope it will.
And this place needs something.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all need art.
Yes.
Isn't that what we should maybe conclude?
Yeah.
I think we are ready for your next work, which is one of your oldest, People on Stone Plinths, performance that's being activated just in a minute on the other side of the wall. So I think we have come to an end with the talk. Thank you so much, Karin.
Thank you both very much.